welcome back to Ellaful Deco. Flower preservation is one of the services that we offer here at Ellaful, so today I want to show you a little bit more behind the scenes of how we create our floral blocks. So today we will be making a standing circle. It's a new shape that we have in the shop, and we will be making a sphere. So they are both made with real flowers. So I will show you exactly how I made them, step by step, everything that's involved behind the scenes. Let's get started. Here is our standing circle mold from AAJ Molds. I had actually suggested this idea to them because they specialize in deep casting molds and they brought it to life. They ended up naming the mold after me, so if you check out their site for this mold, it's called Ella. It's such a beautiful shape. Their molds are packaged very nicely with these cardboards as well that I use as covers to protect the mold from dust. We'll set the mold aside for now and mix up our resin together. We are going to be using Total Boat's thickset Fathom resin. It's their 2:1 ratio by volume deep casting resin. I am using a scale to measure out this resin. The A to B ratio for weight is different though, so when we are measuring by weight, we are measuring 100 parts of A and 46 parts of B. Each resin will come with instructions if you can measure by weight, and it should tell you how much the ratio is if you're going to use a scale. So read the instructions for your resin as it may be different from what we're using. When we mix our resin, mix it slow and steady. I'm using a silicone spatula to mix the resin to help reduce the amount of bubbles introduced. Here I'm showing a little bit of real-time mixing, and now I will speed it up to save us some time on the resin mixing. To make sure your resin is completely mixed, you want to make sure that there are no streaks or fogginess in your mixture. Make sure to scrape the sides and the bottom of your container so there is no unmixed resin either. For this specific resin, we will let it rest for 6 hours to thicken a bit. It's pretty much like water when we first mix it. This number may vary with your work environment and how much you are mixing. Every hour in between now and the 6 hours, we will come back to pop any bubbles at the surface and warm up the sides with our heat gun just a little bit to help bring more bubbles to the surface. This is important to help us get amazing clarity in our blocks. Now it's about 6 hours later and we're almost ready to pour. Before we pour, we want to make sure our molds are clean, no dust or specks that will get casted into our pieces. I use blue painter's tape and lightly tap what I need to remove from the mold. You can use packaging tape for this as well. Once the mold is clean, we will pour our resin. Now you can see here that the resin is a little bit thicker from when we first mixed it. This has a 12-hour work time for me, and I find that now the halfway point is a good consistency for me to work with. For this first layer, I only want to pour about half an inch or so because this layer is mainly for holding down the flowers. Flowers are light and they tend to float to the top. If we filled our molds up, the flowers will stick out of the mold. For this block, I have some dried pink roses, peony, and baby's breath. I am making this as an example, so for my flower placement, I will just do whatever comes to my mind as we pour. We had some extra resin, so I decided to pour into a sphere so the resin doesn't go to waste. I mixed up quite a lot, forgetting that I only needed a thin layer for the base. This is a 4-inch sphere mold, also from AAJ Molds. Since some of the flowers didn't fit into our standing circle, I will put these into the sphere. As I am piecing this together, I'm not sure what was going on through my mind. Most likely rushing because I had extra resin that needed to be used. I realized I poured the resin before coating the rose, so I took the rose out after I coated it, and coating the rose helps with the bubbles. I have a separate video on preserving a rose in a sphere, so you can check that out for more details about that. For the second layer, we are using the same Total Bolts thickset Fathom resin. I have it mixed up already and rested, and this is about 24 hours after the first layer. And my sphere has a lot of space left, so I am going to be adding some more flowers towards the bottom. That way it doesn't look so empty. It's like a little bit less than halfway full. So I have these hydrangeas that I will use to fill in the empty space. As we do this, you will notice bubbles coming from the flowers. That is totally normal. Flowers release a lot of bubbles. To get your piece to be bubble free, you really have to babysit it for the entire work time of your resin. For the standing circle, I will just pour clear resin about halfway through to fill the mold and cover the flowers in 2 layers. We could technically fill the mold up now because this is a deep pour resin and it can be poured up to 3 inches deep. The mold itself is 3 inches deep, but I like to split it up because the flowers are delicate. Resin generates heat while it's curing, and although I haven't had any issues with the flowers burning, I'd rather not risk it. Final layer now, and we will just fill up the molds for both the standing circle and the sphere with the same Total Bolt thickset Fathom resin. The resin that we use in this video will be linked in the description if you want to try it out. If you purchase the resin through my link, you can save a little bit as well. This is my go-to resin for flower preservation, so if you do end up trying it out, let me know what you think. When we're done pouring this layer, we'll let it fully cure, at least 48 hours, before we demold it. Don't forget to babysit your pieces until the end of the work time of the resin for any unwanted bubbles. Here I just want to explain what I'm doing. Bubbles can get trapped in between the petals of the roses or any flowers in general, so here I'm using a popsicle stick and carefully bringing out the bubbles that are trapped in the rose. When the bubbles are at the surface, I will use a heat gun to pop it. I repeat this step every now and then as well while I'm babysitting my blocks. It's at least 48 hours later and we're going to start with demolding the standing circle block. You'll notice that the mold isn't filled all the way to the top, but I did cover the flowers entirely though. I struggled a little bit with the demolding, so I did have to speed this up. It took me a little over 2 minutes, but I wanted to be very careful, especially since I didn't fill the mold all the way up to the top. The piece inside can scratch the mold and then the scratches will show up in future pieces. We don't want that, not at all. And when I demold these larger blocks, I like to flip it and carefully push it out. Like how I am doing in the video. We finally got it out of the mold and we can take a closer look at our piece. The clarity always amazes me despite all the pieces I've made with this resin already. I love keeping the 3D form of the flowers. They look so fresh even though they're completely dried. The block is so pretty. I'll add a top coat to this off camera, and if you need some advice for top coating, check out the tutorial I have for that. Let's move on to demolding the sphere now. This was quite a struggle to demold too, another 2-3 minutes. I remember demolding my first sphere and it was rolling around in the mold because I was definitely not demolding it properly. I believe AAJ Molds has a video on her Instagram showing how she demolds it, and it helped me out a lot. finally got the sphere out of the mold, adding the hydrangeas was definitely a good choice because there's a lot of space between the rows and the bottom of the sphere. I also love spheres because it magnifies the flowers inside. The rows look so nice in this. I wish I had more control of the placement, but spheres are one of the hardest to work with in my opinion. Let's take this outside and see how it looks like in the beautiful natural sunlight. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed preserving these florals with me. If you are interested in booking flower preservation, check out the website. It will be in the description. And if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe and let me know down in the comments below if there's anything you want to see. I'll see you next time.